You were down there at Skilled Stadium on Saturday, an absolute thriller. Joey's getting over the line in the dying second against South Barwon.
Yeah, look, it was one of the best finals we've seen in GFL history. South Barwon looked home and hosed with about 3 minutes to go. Yeah, definitely, mate. History. Okay. Spoke to a few people after the game.
It'll be argued though, mate. It'll be argued history.
Oh, mate, they can argue, but a lot of people we spoke to after the game, mate, they were saying that was one of the best finishes they've ever seen. St Joseph's, they didn't have the week off. They were tired. There were a lot of sore boys. With 7 points down with 3 minutes to go, South Barwon had kicked 3 or 4 goals in a row. They looked out in their feet, and all of a sudden the ball went forward, and Christian Shaw kicked a goal from nowhere. And the ball just locked in their forward line, and he just bombed a long-range ball in. It got punched through off hands and through for a point. They snatched victory. It was a remarkable finish to a game that had it all, and it was an epic match. And now they're the side that has assumed outright favouritism for the premiership with Darwin Sports, but it's a remarkable transition. And now South Barwon against Bell Park this weekend, fighting to make sure they don't go out in straight sets after having only lost 1 game for the season.
We have to introduce one of our favourites to the panel here from the Geelong Advertiser. Nick's fellow GFL writer Ryan Reynolds, who has joined us. And Ryan, look, you got to see Bell Park do it pretty easily on Sunday against Colac, and they'll be taking in some serious momentum this weekend to their game against South Barwon.
Oh, for sure. The final series is so open. If you said 12 weeks ago that Bell Park would be in a preliminary final 1 game away after they'd lost to St Mary's by, I think, 10 goals or something like that, you would have had a bit of a laugh. But they're playing so good the last 4 weeks. They're carrying some good form in, and probably the 39-point margin really favoured Colac a little bit because they were pretty average.
There are 2 things. One thing, you touched on that game against St Mary's I think it was about round 8. Since then, here's a remarkable stat. Bell Park has won 11 of its past 12 games by an average winning margin of 64 points.
That's their go, though, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, they did that in 2007. They missed out last year by a fraction.
They did.
And they've made it in 2009 in the bottom 2 positions and had to play the elimination. But this is their go, and it's almost as if you'd say they're going to go 1 step better than 2007. And I looked at their team, very similar to what it was in 2007. Guys like Cuddill in the midfield, Talbot down back, these sorts of guys. Very similar to what they had in the 07 grand final, the losing grand final, I should say.
Well, they did lose that. They're a much better side than 2007, Bell Park coach John Fitzgerald has said. And the thing about Bell Park this year is they don't have a real key 4, but they get their goals from midfielders. And they've got 6 players who kick more than 25 goals this year, and 4 or 5 of those actually rotate through the midfield. You've got players like Jackson Sheringham, who's VFL listed at Geelong. He's just hard at the footy, wins his own footy, and has explosive pace. His brother Tim Sheringham, I believe, will go very close to winning the Matheson medal this year. He just wins the ball so often and gets the ball moving forward. Players like Nick Batchel as well, really unpredictable, Bell Park, and they've got a really potent midfield, which means that they're really hard to match up on. And it's going to be a fantastic battle this weekend with South Barwon, who have obviously one of the best midfields going around the competition.
I'll tell you another thing, Nick, that favours Bell Park, the size of that Skilled Stadium ground. They've got some of the quickest blokes going around in the GFL, and the best thing about them is they're goal-kicking midfielders as well, and those sort of guys are really going to be a chance to cut South Barwon open this weekend. It's fair to say I think South Barwon will enter as favourites because of the season they've had, but there's going to be a lot of people recognising that Bell Park are a serious chance of knocking off the minor premiers.
They are a very serious chance, Tim, and the thing is though with South Barwon's a very proud club, and they were pretty bitter after the game on the weekend. They knew that they didn't come out with the right intent at the start. They were very slack, very sluggish, and as it's turned out, they now have to fight for their season. And Ryan, I just want your thoughts on Bell Park from the weekend as well, and South Barwon. You've seen them a fair bit this year. Your thoughts on this weekend's game? South Barwon, we know how strong they are over the course of the year. You'd expect a proud club like that wouldn't want to go out in straight sets.
Oh, they'll definitely be looking to bounce back, that's for sure. But as you said, Bell Park's midfield is really strong, and they've got a good attacking aspect to it, which means that the South Barwon midfield have got to have a good defensive game. I think Colac didn't have a lot of pressure on. And I think that ultimately led them to losing the game. So South Barwon have got to be fantastic defensively if they're going to win.
Now Colac, we can't talk about the finals without mentioning Colac. He's a side that was pretty much the informed side of the competition behind South Barwon for the year. A lot of people thought this was the year Colac was going to break that drought. They've been to the finals 3 times the last 3 years and been very, very close. Went out in straight sets. And they haven't just gone out, they've been smashed. They were pretty much uncompetitive in their finals games. Their last 3 finals have yielded a losing margin of, say, 200 plus points.
And of course the third one was the grand final.
Well, that's it last year. They got beaten by 100 points in the grand final. Really, what's happening down at Colac? It's quite worrying. Are their training workloads at the right standard? Have they peaked too early in their seasons? Are they burnt out by the time they get to finals? It's quite disappointing because they're a side with so much potential and so much promise, but they just haven't been able to finish it off on the big stage of Skilled Stadium.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that after the game. Obviously, I saw a few more smiles at some funerals than there were in the Colac change rooms after the game, but they actually kept the players in for a fair whack after the game, about half an hour. and I think they really opened up. And Darren Forsman, obviously the co-coach at Colac, said that they're going to be changing a few things in the off-season in terms of the way they play to get ready. Because, as you said after the game, that's the 4th year in a row they've wasted their season. And football for 5 years, it's hard to stay up for that long.
Now, Wade, you're talking about training loads and teams and selection. South Barwon, I heard on the grapevine, have been dropping the kids and bringing in a few older players. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, on the weekend, South Barwon played, I think they made 8 changes from their round 18 side. And they'll bring back a lot of players that were carrying niggling injuries. One of those players was Warwick Nucky. Now, Warwick Nucky hadn't played
I thought he was still at Kokoda, Warwick Nucky.
No, he got back about a couple of weeks ago. He did go for a trip, but the thing is, he came back and then did his hammy in the reserves. Now, with Nucky, Warwick Nucky hadn't played a game since he retired from footy in June last year. Now, he underwent hip surgery, major hip surgery. He's got arthritis in the joints, and he was told he risked long-term damage, permanent damage, if he played on. So he defied the odds this year. He came back through the reserves and played probably about 3 or 4 games in the twos.
Walked Kokoda as well.
He walked Kokoda. He's in amazing physical condition. You've got something about Kokoda. You really want to mention that, don't you? No, he's in amazing physical condition. And he came back for his first game back from Kokoda. Back from Kokoda. He came back for the first time in 18 months.
Did he swim across?
Oh, gee. Can you give Kokoda a rest? I'm sure he did Kokoda very, very well. The issue here is with him is he hadn't played a game of senior footy and since June last year, and he made his first game back in the final, along with players like Westwood and Corrigan and Bosley and Truella and Burrell and McKee. And
well, questions have got to be asked, don't they? About South Barwon picking that many players back into their side and then they get beat.
But they had them on a premiership sewn up in round 18. That's why they rested so many blokes. Colac did the same thing, and I'd argue that's why Colac's season went off the rails so quickly.
Yeah, well, I think with Colac is they may have flirted with their form in round 18. When they played South Barwon in that game, the fizzer that was potentially the grand final preview, they rested a few players. South Barwon kind of rested players. They said they were legitimate injuries, but they did sort of flirt with their form a little bit, and I think that's what hurt Colac in the end. But I think with South Barwon, they stand by their decision to play those players. They say if they're fit and they're experienced and they're ready to go at finals footy, they will play. So I'm pretty sure we'll see a different South Barwon side this weekend with those players back, finding some touch and with their season on the line.
Well, as Ryan said, I think things might change at Colac next season. There won't be any blokes getting rested in round 18.
No, they might go to Kokoda. They might go.
It worked for Hawthorn, didn't it?
Yeah, well, there you go. Gee, that could be the secret tonic that Colac needs.
All right, boys, if he is watching it, Forsman, go to Kokoda. It's the way to go.
Exactly.
All right, boys, we've got to get a tip for you for this weekend's game between South Barwon and Bell Park. Who's going to take on St Joseph's in the GFL Grand Final?
South Barwon will just get over the line. As much as Bell Park is the informed team side of the competition, I just cannot see South Barwon going out in straight sets.
Come on, Ryan, tip Bell Park.
I'm going to go Bell Park. They were fantastic the weekend. They've got it, and I think St Joseph's would actually prefer to play South Barwon than Bell Park, in my opinion. They match up on them, I think, a bit better with their defence. So I reckon Bell Park will win by 4 goals. They'll have a good win.
There you go.
Nick, you had a chat to this side that both those teams are vying to play in the grand final. Their coach, Mark Hovey's obviously the St Joseph's coach. A little earlier in the weekend, he was pretty coy about the Joey's premiership chances. So we're going to have a little bit of that interview now for you.
No, it was tight. Like last week was huge for us. To win like we did last week was fantastic. But today, to come up against South Barwon, I've only lost 1 game previously, and to get over the line. But the way they got over the line was just, you can see how much they wanted it.